What's up, guys, and welcome back for another Eve Sheets episode. I'm going to be kind of redoing my ore market comparison spreadsheet for you guys. We'll be doing it in actual Excel using the Eve Online add-in. So once you got Excel up, you want to make sure you go to the add-in and search for the Eve Online thing and get that all installed. Essentially what I'm going to be going over in this video, this spreadsheet you're looking at right here, it essentially will take a search string and then it will return a bunch of items that have that search string in the name. And then we will be pulling the ID and then also the current sell percentile. And then we'll also be pulling the last 30-day price average. And then we'll be comparing those two and seeing what the change is. So I am going to do my best to try to walk you through all the functions that go into this. So just listen carefully. If you follow along, you should be able to build this yourself with relative ease. The first thing you're going to want, we're going to talk about the fields that we have right now. So we have a region. We want a region header, an ID, well, region ID header, a search string, and then an exclude name field as well, which we can type stuff down in here. And this also, we can type stuff underneath search string to search for items. And then we have our region ID, which will pull from whatever we type in under region here. There's no function underneath region, so we're just going to just put forage in there. And so for the actual ID field, and I'm compressing a lot of these ESI commands down so we don't take up a lot of room on this sheet. Essentially, we're going to be taking whatever's typed in the region up here and try to return the ID for it. Now that function is right up here, and it's going to be basically equal EveOnline dot search region, and then we want to pass it the cell that is underneath our region header, and then we want to do dot ID. And what that'll do is that'll search all the regions for whatever you have typed in the region field, and it'll return the ID for it. So this ID right here is the ID for the forge. So we have all that set up, good to go. The next really big one here is going to be the name field. This is what this function, this long line of stuff, is what's going to be returning the array of all of the items based on whatever we have typed in our search string. Now, I'm going to walk through this from the beginning of the function all the way down and explain what each section does. Once you actually have typed in your own spreadsheet, you can kind of better see kind of what's happening. But it's all essentially nested together because we want to do everything in a certain order. So the first thing, we have equals, that starts our function. We have an if function in here, and basically what we're doing is we're testing if our exclude field is blank. If it is, we're just going to carry on business as normal, and we're going to run the main array function, which is EveOnline dot inventory search, and we're going to pass in and reference our search string field, whatever we have typed in here, we're going to be passing in an inventory search. That is going to basically return the array of all of the items that match any characters that are in our search string. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to do a filter function, and then we're going to open up that function, and we're going to be typing EveOnline.inventory search, and we're going to reference our search string again. So basically we're going to be looking at the entire array, and then our condition is that we're going to be using a not. Basically not is number, and we're going to search for what is in our exclude field, and we're going to be searching inside of the EveOnline.inventory search, passing the string .name. What that basically means in very short terms is, as long as the exclude name field is not empty, we are going to be excluding anything in the array .name that matches anything that's in the exclude field. To give you a little bit better example here, you can see we have a bunch of compressed feldspar, dense feldspar, but look, you probably don't want to look at batch. Batch is like legacy stuff, right? So let's say we want to get rid of batch completely. We just type batch in our exclude name field, and it just gets rid of those. We don't have to look at them. So now let's go back in here, and maybe that'll make a little bit more sense now. So Our exclude name field is not empty, so we're going to be filtering everything in the array, which that's the array right there. And we're basically going to be looking for the word batch inside of the array.name. It's going to look for every item in there and look at all the names. If it has batch in there, we're going to not return it. Basically not going to pull it out. And that is the most, I feel like the least complicated way to explain that. I think once you have, take a screenshot or, pause the video. Once you have all of this typed in and, you're kind of looking at everything and you can kind of roll over and see the tooltips, it becomes a lot more clear because as you kind of click through here, the tooltip will kind of give you an idea of what or where in the function you're actually at and what values mean and everything. So now we have that all set up. The next thing we're going to be dealing with is the ID right here. So essentially the ID is pretty simple. We're just going to be referencing the name, the cell to the left, and the new dot ID. And that'll just return the ID for that item. And then the cell percentage, we'll look at this function here. This is going to be using an if error function. So basically if there is no price, then it'll return a 0. Otherwise, it'll return the actual price, sell price percentile. So inside of the if error, our actual function is going to be eveonline.market underscore orders underscore stats. And we essentially, the first variable we need to pass into this function is going to be the region ID. The second variable we're going to be passing in is going to be the item ID, which is right over here. We just got that. And then we're going to close that parenthesis that ends that function. That's the main array of stats that we're going to pull. And then we're going to do dot cell and then dot percentile. That's going to give us the actual cell percentile number. And then 0. This 0 actually finishes off the if error right here. So basically if there's no price or something, it'll just put a 0 in there instead of an actual error code, which makes it clean. So with all of that, basically we're returning the percentile, which is 14.69 for the compressed Veldspar, concentrated Veldspar there. Now the next one over is going to be our cell, our 30-day average. Essentially what we want to do is we want to look at the average price every day for the past 30 days, and then we're going to average all those together. So we're starting that off with an if error, same as we did the last one. If there's a weird number or it doesn't have prices, it won't return, it'll just return 0. But essentially we're going to be opening up this with a average function, and then we're going to basically take, and the take function allows us to kind of put in our normal formula and our array formula, and we're going to just specify how many rows we want to actually pull. If you just do eveonline.market underscore history and then we pass in our region ID and our item name, it's going to give you a lot of dates. And we want to drill it down. We want the history, but we also want the average. And so the main function here is actually going to be eveonline.market underscore history. First variable, pass in the region ID. Second variable for that function, pass in the name of the item, and then close that function. That is the array. Let's go and pull that actual function out of here so you can kind of see what that looks like when you just run it by itself. So we actually type in down here by itself equals eveonline.market underscore history, pass in our region ID, and then pass in the name. And then what we want to do is we want to type dot and then history and then hit enter. Now that's going to return all of these dates, right? Crazy amount of dates. We're not going to want all those dates. I mean, if you were going to do like a spreadsheet looking at like the 12-month average, then, yeah, you're probably going to need like, every day of the year and stuff like that. But over the first day, so 1/9/2024, we go over here and we look at the average. That's going to give us the average price for that day. We can also look at the highest price for the day. But to get more of an accurate number, we want average. We just want to grab that average. So what we essentially want is we want averages, all the averages for the past 30 days. But we want to like compress all this down into one cell to make it easier. Now we can do this, we can even drill down on this one that we're building. So we did the dot history here, and then we can actually further extend that by doing dot average. Now you can see instead of it actually showing the dates, it's just going to show all of the average prices. Now, let's say we only want to pull the past 5 days. We can use what is called a take function. So we actually go over here, and you can see we have a lot of results here. So we're gonna go into here where we did dot history dot average. We're gonna go to the very beginning next to our equals sign, and we're gonna do take, and then open parenthesis, and then right after average, we're going to do a comma, and then we are gonna do, we'll say 5. We're going to do 5 rows, close parentheses, hit enter. And what that did was that brought us just the past 5 days and the averages of that price on each one of those days. So we're getting closer. We're getting closer to drilling down and getting that nice 30-day average, right? Now we want this to be like a 5-day average, for example here. But now if we actually select all of these, we can actually see down here that the average is about 13.77, and it's a count of 5. So we can put this now, the take function plus everything else, everything we built right now, we're going to put inside of an actual average function. So again, next to our equal sign, we're going to do average, open parenthesis, and then go to the very end and put another close parenthesis. And now what that did was gave us a 13.77, which is the 5-day average. Now all we have to do to change it to 30-day average is go back up in here and put 30 instead of 5. And then that's how we got this 14.69. That's our 14.2. It rounded up. So once we actually have it up here, we have it set to format for Icelandic ISK credits. Then it's just rounding up to 4.20. And that's how we got all of that craziness into one cell. We essentially pulled all the dates and then drilled it down and pulled the averages for those dates, limited it to the past 30 days with take function, and then averaged all of that into a single cell. Now we have that. The change function is essentially, we have an if error in here, just so if any of these other cell percentile or the 30-day average is weird, then this one won't be weird either. But essentially this one is we're just taking the cell percentile and then we're minusing the 30-day average to get the difference. So if you look at like today's value, 14.69, it's 49.49 ISK higher than what the 30-day average is. And that gives us a good, really quick glance at how that value is doing. Now we can just select all these rows right here and then go here to the corner and just drag all the way down like this. And this will update all of these. If you get like these little cells that have a bunch of, pound signs in them, all that means is you need to like make your cell a little wider to show everything. Let's look at this a little bit. So as you can see here, we have all of our cell percentiles and then all the 30-day averages for them. There's a lot going on in this very small dynamic spreadsheet. So let's say we get rid of Veld there and just do, we'll just type in compressed exclude batch. Let it all load up. See, there's a lot of stuff in here. We're actually going to drag all these down to cover all of this stuff. We're just dragging that corner all the way down to all these results. This is going to be basically returning everything that has compressed in the name. It might actually take a little bit for all this stuff to populate, but as you can see here, we have compressed coil guns in here as well. So if like you didn't want to see any of the coil guns, you could use your exclusion field and just type gun and then wait for it to populate. You'd get batch. I mean, there is ways to like do multiple exclusion fields. It gets really complicated really fast, but I think for the purpose of this, It's a pretty quick way to kind of see what's going on. There's just a lot of compressed stuff to kind of look over. I probably wouldn't like look at all compressed. I'd probably, like, if you're in high sec, you would just look at veld, and then we would just get rid of batch. And actually, we got, that's a good example. We need to put that if error back into the ID field, so that you see how we're getting this error, this field. That's because we don't have it in here. So let's go ahead and put that in. We'll put it in the top one. We'll just rewrite this completely. So do equals if error open parenthesis, and then we're going to do our normal function here. So we're going to do the b2 dot id close parenthesis. And when you go back into the parentheses and do a column or a comma and then do 0. And then what we'll do is we'll drag all this down. But for this one, we're actually going to do just 2 quotation marks so that the field is empty instead of a 0. So as you see there, you got rid of all that stuff. We just need to make sure that, kind of matches all the way down. I usually like putting in just white space, just like, void or null, so that none of these like if zeros are down in here. Makes it a little bit cleaner. But in order to change that, you just go in here to the 0 is at the end of every one of these if error functions and put in quotes. And then we will just hit enter. Then we could just re-drag all this stuff down. That way, if your search array or your search doesn't actually populate all the way down this far, then you don't have all this craziness going on. So that cleaned all that up pretty nicely. And then let's say you want to do, you just type in plag. So now we can look at Azure Plag, compressed Azure Plag. We can start looking at all this. As you can see here, like this stuff didn't have a percentile value. So it's just it's populating 0, and everything. Everything with numbers is a legit item on the market. And this is all pulling from live data. Obviously, the 30-day average is old stored data and stuff like that. So hopefully that wasn't too complicated. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and just normal like use of Excel stuff like average, take, all these different functions that exist outside of the Eve stuff. And when you have the Eve add-in here, you can see all these different functions here, depending on what you want to do. You can plug it in and all that stuff. It definitely helps if you have some programming experience, especially like object-oriented programming experience. So you know kind of how the hierarchy of everything works. But I'm gonna do my best in this series to kind of help you guys out and like getting this stuff kind of built out. But that's essentially it. The exclude thing's pretty cool. You can exclude name. We can also exclude if we could change the formula too, we can exclude like market groups or any other sort of condition. But I figured exclude name is probably the easiest, so you don't have to worry about looking at batch compressed stuff and everything. But when you're typing this out, the best thing to do, I would say, is if you want to put this together and kind of mess around with it, get all these functions typed in and get everything kind of working. Then you can start kind of messing around with it. I would say, like, you don't even have to do like the 30-day average. That's just something that's useful for me. That can be a little complicated, but I think once you have it in there, it works out pretty well. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.